Hi, everybody. This is Ananda. And today we are going to speak about the Enneagram Type 8s. Easy for me because I'm a Type 8. The 8s are interesting because they are a dominating kind of character. The way I understand an 8, because I am one and because I'm constantly working on the particular areas I'm going to discuss with you now. So it should make the 8s listening to this, or for those people who know 8s, understand themselves and others better. The word that I think about whenever I talk about an 8 is dominating and controlling. 8s are strong characters. Another word is libido, but it doesn't necessarily have to be libido in the sexual way. Libido just means an intensity of the moment. 8s tend to live very much in their now. It's like a primal now mentality. The body type, which is most, in a way, aggressive, they can tap into their anger and overdo their anger. The only types that really can do that more than an 8 or get angrier than an 8 are the sexual 4 and the sexual 6, believe it or not. Because an 8, although they can get very angry, they don't get very angry very often. But when they do, they do. They can tap into that. And it shows itself, the energy shows itself as in libido. The intensity now has got to be cool. And the next now has got to be intense. And they really are not aware of the impact they have. I'll give you a very good example of this. Many years ago, I was with a girlfriend of mine and we went to Mount Shasta. I didn't know that she was taking me to see some kind of a channel person on the mountain, in the trees. It was lovely. It was snowing on the mountain. And when we arrived, myself and my girlfriend stood very far back, about a meter away against a tree. And the lady who was going to be the channel went to stand in the vortex, which was like, I don't know, an area that she said was a vortex, to begin her channeling. And just before she started, she looked at me and I was sitting very far away and she said, "Please leave my space. You're interrupting me." And I got such a fright. I didn't know what I was doing. Firstly, I was being quiet and I was just listening. She was feeling my energy. You see, you feel an 8. They have this very strong energy. And because it is so strong and dominating, often an 8 thinks that they have to dominate by using their words and going on, when in fact their presence is enough. It's a felt presence. Another issue with 8s is that they're self-forgetting. In other words, an 8 can really work themselves into the ground in whatever way. If you're a female, you can be the kind of mother who just doesn't stop. If you're a man, you can be continuously just working and working and working until you can almost fall down. You tend to ignore the body's need for rest because an 8 doesn't like to feel any kind of weakness. For them, vulnerability is weakness. And any form of showing emotion or talking about feelings, feeling sad, feeling upset, feeling discouraged, feeling this, feeling that, for an 8 is something they dislike doing. They feel that if they do that, it's showing too much vulnerability. And in their mind, in an 8's mind, vulnerability equals weakness. And I'm talking now about an unhealthy 8. When an 8 is unhealthy, they don't even know that they're doing this. It's completely unconscious. A good example of a quote that has a lot to do with the 8's mentality is, "My best friends will stab me in the front." They're constantly on guard, protecting themselves just in case. They love to provoke, they love to challenge, and that's why they're called the challenger or the boss, because they want to create order out of chaos. 8s really value the truth. And they are always looking for loyalty. They want to know that people are being loyal to them. And they are afraid of afraid and scared and vulnerable underneath the facade of being a strong, dominating character. They are normal human beings just like the rest of us. It's sometimes hard to sense it in an 8. When an 8 starts to awaken and they start to embrace their vulnerability, they start to recognize that it is indeed their greatest strength. And I do talk about that a little bit in my book, which is called Intimacy with the Infinite by Ananda Devi. I really talk about doing some shadow work and looking at the shadow. And for an 8, their vulnerability lies in the shadow. So when they start to awaken, the vulnerable feelings that they've suppressed for most of their lives start to come up. And it's really difficult for them to sit with those feelings and really acknowledge them and kind of love them just the way they are. But once they can do that, they kind of cross a bridge where they're no longer afraid of their truth, their real feelings. There are 3 subtypes with 8s, and with any Enneagram type, there are 3 subtypes. So the self-preservation 8 is the 8 that really looks like an 8. This person is very private. I'm not a self-preservation 8, by the way, but anyway, they're very private. They tend to be the most 8-ish in that in order to win or to dominate, they will do anything. Often they really don't care who they cross or what they have to do to get their way, as long as they are being the boss, and they will challenge regardless. These 8s, I would say, are the least likely to do their work, but the 8s that really need to do it the most. It's almost impossible to get them to open up. You always feel around them that they're not really human. They're very strong, very dominant. They don't like to show any vulnerability. And I guess that's the main feature with a self-preservation 8. And that's all about getting their needs met. Self-preservation is always about survival. So that 8, the self-preservation 8, will do anything to get its needs met. And it really doesn't matter who they have to cross or what they have to do in order to get their needs met. Sometimes it could even be an activity that's really not okay to do. And they will do it usually without thinking twice. These 8s have to understand that, they have to rein it in. They have to see how the consequences to those kinds of actions. That's why, with a self-preservation 8, I often think they're the types that can be criminal in their activities. Anyway, so now we're going to move on to, but not all of them. Remember, there's some wonderful self-preservation 8s that are still good people, but again, this vulnerability, this need to be vulnerable, and remembering that just to relax that need to be dominant and to recognize that you are already projecting a very strong energy without even saying anything. Just your presence. That's one of the gifts of the type 8. The social 8 is an 8 that is very much a person who wants to protect the underdog. I have a lot of social 8 in me. We like to help people as much as possible. When we see any kind of unfairness, we want to help stop it. It's instinctive in the 8. And I guess that's why they called the challengers, because they'll kind of challenge the status quo if they notice something unfair happening. Very protective, very loyal people, and expect it back in return. The other thing about a social 8 is that they will, again, they are still dominating, but it's more about group. It's dominating a group. It's helping to make a difference in a group type of environment, more so than about self-survival. They're also very self-forgetting. All 8s are. The 9s are self-forgetting too. Body types. The 8s are body types. Who was a great example would be Karl Marx. Was it Karl Marx? I forget. I think Martin Luther King was an 8 as well. Protecting the underdog, doing something about the issues that they see in the world. 8s are great leaders in that way. The sexual 8, the word here is possession. They like to possess. These people, a great quote is, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. So the people in their lives, they like to feel they're in charge. They are dominating. These 8s have to recognize that other people have boundaries Eights don't understand boundaries because they don't feel them. They feel this sense of their presence being very powerful, so they can take over a room without even knowing it. They have to learn how to deal with this energy, how to rein the energy in, because other people feel that, and other people can often, kind of like, get away from me, you like all over me, you on top of me. They can kind of move forward, take over, and they're doing it energetically. But once an 8 understands that they have to pull back, they're able to do so very effectively. When they recognize that not everybody's an 8, some people are not 8, some people are 5s or 4s or 3s or 9s, they can then take responsibility for the energy that they are bringing, stop, listen, let other people have a point of view, learn to give another person a chance. Their need to dominate begins to relax. And the healthier an 8 gets, the more relaxed they get and the less afraid they are of just saying it like it is. In other words, they become current with their feelings. What they feel right now becomes important. They can voice it, they can say it, and they start to realize that hiding their innocence behind this mask of strength and dominance is not beneficial. All the time. Sometimes it is in our world, but not always. And then they become much more healthy and they can pick their battles wisely instead of challenging unconsciously. 8s love to provoke a challenge. That's why they're the challengers. They're not good with details, but they're good with the big picture. So they can be bossy, do that, do that, do that, do that, seeing the big picture, what needs to be done, but not thinking about, well, what about everybody else? Do they really feel like doing all those little jobs? Some people are great with details, 8s aren't. 8s are just the big picture people. Let me think if there's anything I'm leaving out. I'm trying to really give an overview and hopefully be a catalyst so that other people can start doing their work on their own by ordering a book, start looking at your Enneagram type, start understanding your subtype, and it makes it so much easier to become self-aware. All of a sudden, when you notice your motivation, in other words, if your motivation for an 8 is to overtake, dominate, push somebody aside because you need to feel that you're in charge and the boss, stop yourself. Be quiet. 8s find it difficult, but when the shift takes place, they become very healthy, and they can be incredible people. They can really help other people too. An 8 tends to move towards really being more helpful, less dominant, and kinder as soon as they just relax their need to be invulnerable. I know for me, my path was extremely difficult when I had to awaken to all my real feelings. I had suppressed them for so long, I didn't even know what my feelings felt like. There were some times that I thought I don't even have feelings. So when my feeling emotional body opened, it was like an avalanche standing at the bottom of a mountain, and snow just fell all over my body, until I was, deeply underground in the dark. And I really had to feel my way out of that. Sometimes that can happen. Now I'm current though, because the minute that I allowed myself to feel those vulnerable feelings, I could step out of it. I could let myself feel them, let myself express them, let myself be true to me, let myself be vulnerable, and I relaxed. So I do know it's possible, and I do hope that all 8s look at that. And listen. 8s need to learn to listen. Anyway, that's my little talk today on 8s. And the next time I will do the Enneagram Type 7. We're going to work backward. I love you all. This is Ananda Devi. I really hope this helped. I hope it helped the 8s listening. And please, if you know any 8s, send this to them, because maybe it'll help them. And if you are an 8, all I can say is that if I can do this, so can you. It's wonderful work. Thank you. Please book your sessions. It is time to wake up. It really is. This is why I'm doing these videos, to really help people recognize that there is work to be done. There really is no point sitting back and blaming other people for what we're seeing going on in our world. We have to do something about it. And the only thing we can do is work on ourselves first. Love you all. Take care. And I'll see you soon. Bye.